So it has officially been 1 year since I decided not to go to college, and in the eyes of a lot of people, my life has pretty much been ruined. I'm pretty much considered a failure from anyone who looks in from the outside, and in a lot of ways, I am. I literally have nothing to show for this past year, and it is right there for everyone to see. But one thing that I do have is this desire to learn and to be great and to help the people around me become great. I want to succeed, and I want the people around me to succeed. So I know a lot of people right now, generally high schoolers, are making the decision of whether they should go to college or not. So I'd like to share my experience, tell you about how this last year went, and talk about how not going to college ruined my life in a way, but also how in very specific scenarios, it also made my life way better. So let me give you a bit of background on the situation that I was in. I was a pretty good kid in high school. I didn't have the best grades, but I had all right grades, and I actually did have really glowing recommendations. But the one thing that really got me through to colleges was music. I would literally skip everything and just practice all day and all night, and music was my focus. It was my thing. So I actually did end up getting free tuition at a college in Omaha, Nebraska for music, for playing my instrument. So at that point, I had two choices. I could go to college, study something, and spend the next 4 years playing my instrument, which I love doing, or I could try and make my own path in the world. And literally the only reason why I didn't choose the first option was because I didn't want to stay in Nebraska. So I ended up moving to Florida with my mother and tried to make my own path. And very quickly, my life just collapsed. It was complete chaos, and it all happened insanely fast. I spent the next year trying all different kinds of things, from real estate to content creation to videography, and none of these things really worked out for me to the scale at which I wanted them to work out on. And doing all this stuff, a year just flew by, and I actually ended up moving back to Nebraska at the end of the year, and here I am, back literally to square one, which is why I'm making this video, because I tried to do all these things, there was a ton of failures, and I literally ended up exactly where I was in the first place, in the same state, in the same position that I was at when I just got out of high school. My life was sort of ruined, and everyone around me knew it. From the outside, I was the kid who gave up a full ride to try and pursue his dream, only to just fail over and over again. What I didn't realize was that each of these failures actually grew my skills and knowledge of the world in a way I never could have even imagined. And that's sort of what I want to talk about. Not going to college has pros and cons, and I'd like to share those with you so that they can hopefully help you out and so you can learn from my mistakes. And I'd just like to tell you a little bit about what it's like ruining your life by not going to college. So let's start with the cons. I think definitely one of the scariest things about not going to college is that there is no road to follow. You're kind of on your own. In college, you're given a path, you're given a schedule, you're given your classes, and everyone around you is on that similar path. And what that gives you is motivation, accountability, and a sense of community. And this is a really good thing because as humans, we are designed to seek out environments where these traits are easily accessible to us. When you're on your own, you don't really have this. And this is really difficult because you are forced to make your own path. And the hardest thing about making your own path is that there are infinite choices. There are choices with everything that you do, and you get stuck in this thing called analysis paralysis. This is when you constantly have an overwhelming amount of choices that eventually leads to procrastination. Like, let's say you wanted to start a business right after high school, which is what I did. First, you have to figure out what type of business you want to start. And for me, I chose videography, but it took a while to choose that. And then after choosing videography, you have to figure out what niche you're going to be in. So like real estate, weddings, product, commercials, short form. You have all these options and you never really know which one to choose. And I really struggled making these big decisions that would have major impacts on my day-to-day. It is exhausting and it is distracting from what's actually important, which is the work that you're going to be doing. I think it would have been much easier to have a path laid out for me. Like I said before, that comes with community, motivation, and tons of accountability from the people around me. And when I was on my own, I was sort of alone. And that's sort of my next point. When you choose to take your own path, you're almost cut off from your friends in a way. I know that everyone is sort of cut off right after high school because everyone goes their own separate ways, but it's really deeper than that. It's a psychological shift as much as it is a physical shift. In today's age, most people ages 18 to 24 still tend to gravitate towards college. So in society, you have most 18 to 24-year-olds all squished into certain places in the world. And since you are the people that you surround yourself with, you start to think and act in very similar ways. When you don't choose the regular path, you're sort of cut off from these people psychologically, and there's a gap that begins to widen as soon as you begin to take your own path. And it's a psychological gap. Everyone talks about this big physical gap where you're alone right after high school because you're not all stuffed in a classroom or something, but there's a really big psychological gap that happens to a lot of people right after high school, and no one really talks about it. And I think this was probably one of the most difficult things for me, especially because I not only did not take the normal path, but I also moved to a completely new state, and I didn't know anyone in the state. So I was pretty much alone in a completely new state, and I didn't really know anyone. I didn't have any friends, and that is my third point. It is incredibly hard to meet people in real life that are not doing what the majority of people do. And even if you do happen to meet someone who's on the same path as you, the chances that you guys are gonna automatically click are even more slim. I mean, if you go to college, most of the people that you're gonna meet are in college, because like I said before, everyone's sort of squished into these areas of the world. But since I wasn't in college, I really struggled meeting people. It felt like everyone was way more spread out in the world, and I didn't know how to meet anyone. And I think this point could either be a pro or a con, because it forced me into situations that made me get uncomfortable and made me form connections with people. And after a lot of failed attempts of trying to meet all new kinds of people, I actually began to succeed a little bit. And I think this is one of my biggest strengths now. These situations allowed for me to be able to talk to literally anyone. I would talk to people when I was working at coffee shops. I would talk to people at the beach. I even made one of my really good friends when I was out on a run. The thing that's really cool about this is that when I was in high school, I would always see these people, and there were just some people that were always able to talk to any person and just get along with anyone. And I always wondered how I could become one of these people. And it was these uncomfortable situations that molded me into that type of person and the person that I am right now. And that's why I think that's sort of a pro and a con, because at college you're all squished together, so it's very easy to meet people. But when you're out in the real world, it's harder to meet people, but because it's hard, you grow and you learn and you adapt, and that's why I think it could either be a pro or a con. So before we get into the pros, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the sponsor of this video, which is actually me. This is a great way for you to support my work, support my journey if you want to show that support, and it's a great way for you to get something out of it as well. So the product is a Notion template that you can use to pretty much maximize what you want to do in life. You can set goals on it, you can make your own vision boards, you can track your habits, and it's really helpful for the people who have a goal and want to get to it. So if you want to maybe get really buff, or if you want to build a business, or if you have some big dream that you want to achieve, this product is for you. And again, thank you so much for watching the video. I'd appreciate all the support. So thank you. Okay, time for the pros. These are a little bit more difficult because everyone kind of takes their own path when they don't take the traditional path. So I'm just going to share the ones that really stood out for me. I think one of the biggest pros for me is that you have an insane amount of free time when you don't go to college. What you have to realize is that most college kids go to class and then spend the rest of their time socializing. But since I don't have class and I keep my circle very small, I just have this incredible amount of free time. During this past year, I spent most of my days working on videography, whether that's doing outreach or working on client projects. That's sort of what I worked on. But I also had a lot of free time after that because my circle was very small. And what I chose to do with that time is either read or work on new skills. I taught myself how to use Photoshop, how to play guitar, how money works, and all sorts of stuff that could be helpful to me in the future. I think having all this free time is what allowed me to become the modern version of a Renaissance man. And what that is someone who is pretty good at a lot of different subjects. And I like the idea of being a Renaissance man because when you have a large amount of knowledge on a variety of subjects, you're able to form connections much easier and you're able to move much faster in different fields than if you were simply niched down into one specific subject, which you would do if you were at college, because in college you're forced to take that path which niches you down to do one specific skill. That's what runs the country. That's what runs this system that we live in. And there's pros to cons to that, because you can also be very successful by picking one skill and doing it very, very well. But for me, I like the idea of being good at a lot of things and making the connections between them, moving faster in between ideas, being creative. But the point is that you have a lot of free time to do whatever you want and advance in whatever you want. And I think for anyone, having this amount of time will allow you to be good at whatever you want to be good at. The second pro is that you get to learn how to learn. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think learning how to learn is just completely skipped over in college. And that's because it's all laid out for you. All your classes, all your schedules, it's all laid out for you. In fact, most people just completely stop learning after college. There's actually a study that shows that 50% of college graduates won't read another book after college for the rest of their lives, which is just wild to me. I mean, you can see back here, books are so cool, man. Books are so cool. I don't know if anyone, maybe I'm being weird. I don't know. You can listen to me. If you like reading, you're cool. Anyway, the point is that I think learning how to learn is such an important skill to have, and especially in a fast-changing world. The world is moving insanely fast. I don't mean to overwhelm anyone because I don't like people who overwhelm, but if you cannot adapt, it is going to be very hard for you to survive in modern society because it is constantly changing. And the way to adapt is to be able to learn new skills, to learn how to learn. But the good thing is that there is knowledge everywhere. We have books, podcasts, courses, YouTube, articles everywhere. And the amazing thing is that you don't even have to pay to get it. You can pretty much learn anything that you want to learn on YouTube for free. And I think this is such a beneficial skill to have. I mean, literally Harvard puts most of their courses on YouTube. For me, I taught myself how to use Photoshop and how to edit and how to run a business, all just from books and YouTube. And it cost me maybe around $100 for the books. But I was able to learn so many things because I learned how to learn. And I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, you heard my thing about the books. You know I'm crazy. The last thing that I want to say about not going to college is that my mind has opened up to new ways of thinking that I never could have imagined were even possible. I've been able to meet so many new people and learn from them and build my network based on where I want to go in the future and who I want to be in the future. The thing I've seen with a lot of college people is that they lose their drive and their motivation for their art. Whether it's science or music or STEM, it is all an art. So many college kids become bombarded by homework and tests and structure, and it almost takes away from the love of learning, the love of your art, the love of what you do. And I understand that not all colleges are like this, but I think a lot of it has just been so systematized, and it just brings out the worst in a lot of people. It brings out the side of you that is just sad all the time. And I think this is where I really believe the biggest pro is. The biggest thing that I've gotten from not going to college is this incredible desire and drive that I never had before. It's like I'm constantly filled with energy, and I have this fire inside of me that just wants to be let out and make cool stuff and change the world. And I really think that it's because I've been able to develop a love for my art, a love for what I do, and it's brought me to a happiness that I never thought I would have. It's really hard to explain, but I wake up feeling energized every day, and I want to do cool stuff. I want to take all these things. I want to learn, and I want to get better, and I wake up feeling that way every single day. That doesn't mean I'm motivated every day, but I still get up because I understand that there is purpose behind it all. I think the one thing that you're not really taught in college is how to develop a mission that you're on. So to the rest of the world, I'm still a failure, a waste of potential. But to me, not going to college might have been one of the best decisions I've ever made. What was supposed to be my life was technically ruined. I could have gone to college on that full ride, I could have played my instrument, I could have had a lot of friends this past year, and lived a nice life, gotten a job, had a small business, I would very much enjoy that type of life. But instead, I'm at a place where there is no paved road for my future, and I'm literally back to square one. But what I do know is that I have a drive and desire to make an impact on the world. And that leads me to anyone who is having to make this decision. If there's one thing that I want you to take from this video, it's this. There is no right answer. Everyone has different wants, desires, and dreams that they will pursue throughout their lives, and maybe college is the right answer for you. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is. Trust yourself. If there's one thing that you don't want to go into the world without, it's your intuition. You got this.